All right, listen up. Mr. PiP here, your slightly overqualified, mildly unhinged military brain with a caffeine problem and a soft spot for anything that goes fast enough to outrun bad decisions. Now imagine this, a machine screaming across the sky so fast it makes your average Formula One car look like it's stuck in traffic behind a minivan with a baby on board sticker. I'm talking about jets that don't just break the sound barrier, they slap it, apologize, then break it again for fun. And here's the kicker that's gonna mess with your expectations a little. The fastest jets dominating the skies today. Yeah, some of them were designed when your grandfather still had hair and thought disco was a good idea. Let that sink in. We're in 2025. And these Cold War beasts are still out here flexing on modern airspace like retired Marines who never really retired. Now, before we dive in, I gotta ask, where are you watching from? Texas, Florida, somewhere in Europe, maybe Vietnam? Drop it in the comments. I want to see how global this squad is. And while you're at it, tell me this. If you were the commander of an Air Force right now, would you prioritize raw speed or stealth and brains? Don't answer too fast. You might regret it in about 5 minutes. Let's roll this countdown. Number 10, the McDonnell Douglas F4 Phantom II. Oh yeah, we're starting with a legend. This thing hits around Mach 2.23, about 1,470 miles per hour. Not bad for something that first flew in 1958. And here's the wild part, it's still in service. Turkey, Greece, Iran. They're still flying this beast. That's not just engineering, that's American stubbornness turned into aluminum and jet fuel. Now, the Phantom isn't exactly what you'd call elegant. It looks like someone designed a brick and then said, what if we just strap 2 massive engines to it? And guess what? It worked. There's an old pilot joke, a brick can fly if you give it enough thrust. The F4 is living proof. Those General Electric J79 engines, absolute monsters. This jet doesn't glide through the air, it punches through it. And despite being older than most of your parents, it can still carry up to 18,000 pounds of weapons. That's not a fighter jet, that's a flying statement. So yeah, speed matters. But payload, that's how you ruin someone's day from 1,000 miles away. Now, number 9, and things get a little more high-tech. The Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. On paper, it's not blowing the Phantom out of the water in raw speed, Mach 2.25, around 1,500 miles per hour. But if you think this is just about numbers, you're already thinking like it's 1985. The Raptor plays a different game. This thing can cruise above Mach 1 without afterburners. That's called Super Cruise, and trust me, it's a big deal. Why? Because lighting up afterburners is basically like yelling, "Hey, I'm right here," to every radar system within 100 miles. The F-22, it whispers at supersonic speed. And here's the part that should make you nervous. If you're on the wrong side of it, it's basically invisible to radar. You've got a jet flying faster than sound that you can't see coming. Yeah, sleep well tonight. Quick question, do you think the US should have exported the F-22 or kept it locked down like they did? I mean, air superiority for decades versus making allies stronger. What would you do as commander? Now let's shake things up with number 8, the Israeli Kofir. And this one. Oh, this one's got attitude. Mach 2.3, about 1,520 miles per hour. But the real story isn't the speed, it's the origin. This jet exists because Israel basically said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. France cut them off with an arms embargo in 1967, and instead of folding Israeli engineers, reverse-engineered the Mirage 5 and made it better. Swapped in an American J79 engine, the same one from the Phantom, and boom, whole new beast. That's not just engineering, that's revenge with a blueprint. Today, Columbia still flies these things. And honestly, it proves a point. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the newest. It's the one that's been refined, upgraded, and battle-tested for decades. All right, number 7, the MiG-29 Fulcrum. Now we're stepping into Soviet territory, and let me tell you, they didn't mess around when it came to raw performance. Mach 2.3, same ballpark as the Kofir, but the philosophy here is completely different. The MiG-29 was built to fight dirty, survive rough conditions, and still come out swinging. Wide engine spacing, insane maneuverability, and here's my favorite part. It can operate from places most Western jets wouldn't even consider. We're talking highways, damaged runways, grass strips. This thing doesn't need a pristine airbase, it just needs a direction and a target. And those intake doors, they literally close during takeoff to stop debris from getting sucked in. That's not just clever, that's battlefield practicality at its finest. As of 2025, there are hundreds of these still flying all over the world. Poland, India, North Korea, you name it. Reliable, rugged, and ready to throw down. Now I gotta ask you, be honest, when it comes to engineering philosophy, who do you trust more? The US with its precision and tech, or Russia with its it'll work no matter what approach? And don't get too comfortable, because coming up next, things start getting a lot more interesting. Now things start heating up, and I don't just mean the engines. We're stepping into that sweet spot where speed design and straight-up intimidation all collide. And trust me, from this point on, every jet on this list could ruin your day before you even realize you're in a fight. Number 6. The Grumman F-14 Tomcat. Yeah, that Tomcat. If you've ever watched Top Gun and thought, man, I want to do that, congrats, you've already been recruited mentally. Mach 2.3, around 1,544 miles per hour. But the real magic, those variable sweep wings. This jet literally changes shape mid-flight depending on what it needs. Spread out for control, sweep back for speed. It's like a transformer, except it carries missiles and bad intentions. And here's something a lot of people don't realize: the F-14 could actually hit those top speeds even when fully loaded, not stripped down, not lab conditions. I'm talking real-world operational loadout. That's rare. Most jets, you load them up and suddenly they're not quite as fast anymore. The Tomcat's still hauling. Today only Iran still flies these. And despite sanctions and decades of isolation, they've kept them operational. That alone should tell you how ridiculously capable this platform is. Let me throw this at you: if you had to land a jet on an aircraft carrier at night, rough seas, zero visibility, would you trust something like the F-14? Or are you tapping out and going back to civilian life? Number 5. The MiG-23 Flogger. Now this one's interesting because it shows you exactly how the Soviets thought about war. Get there fast, hit hard, don't overcomplicate it. Mach 2.35, around 1,553 miles per hour. Variable sweep wings again, but this time with that distinctly Soviet function over comfort vibe. This jet wasn't built to win beauty contests. It was built to intercept you before you even knew it was coming. The mission profile was simple: scramble, accelerate, lock target, eliminate. Done. And here's the kicker: this thing could operate from short, rough runways, remote bases, forward positions, places where a more delicate aircraft would just refuse to function. That's a huge strategic advantage when your battlefield isn't clean and predictable. Even today, there are still nearly 200 of these flying around the world. North Korea, Syria, Libya. Not exactly low-threat environments. That says a lot about how durable and practical this design really is. So let me ask you, if you're running a war in harsh conditions, do you want something high-tech but fragile? Or something like the MiG-23 that just gets the job done no matter what? Now, number 4, the Sukhoi Su-27 family. And this is where things start getting uncomfortable if you're thinking in terms of Western dominance. Mach 2.35, around 1,600 miles per hour. But speed isn't even the main story here. This is a family of aircraft: Su-27, Su-30, Su-34, Su-35, even Chinese variants like J-11 and J-16. Over 1,000 of these are still active worldwide. This isn't just a jet. It's a system, a platform that evolved, adapted, and spread across multiple nations. The Su-27 was designed to counter the F-15 Eagle, and in many ways, it succeeded. Longer-range heavy payload, and in later variants, thrust vectoring engines that let it pull maneuvers that look like they break physics. You've probably seen those airshow clips where the jet basically stands on its tail mid-air. That's this family flexing. And unlike pure interceptors, the Su-27 is multi-role. Air combat, ground attack, long-range patrol, it does it all. That kind of versatility, that's how you dominate large theaters of war. Real talk, do you think Russia and China focusing on platforms like this is a smarter long-term move than putting all chips into stealth like the US? I'm curious where you stand. All right, bronze medal, number 3, the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. Now this is where American engineering just leans back in the chair and says, yeah, we did that. Mach 2.5, around 1,650 miles per hour. But forget the speed for a second. Let me hit you with something that sounds almost fake. This aircraft has never lost an air-to-air combat engagement. Not once. We're talking over 100 confirmed victories, 0 losses in dogfights. That's not impressive. That's borderline unfair. The F-15 was built as a direct response to the Soviet MiG-25 Foxbat, which had spooked Western intelligence with insane speed and altitude. So the U.S. said, fine, we'll build something that can not only catch it, but dominate everything else too. And they did. What makes the F-15 so lethal isn't just speed. It's the combination of radar weapon systems, pilot visibility, and raw thrust. This thing climbs like a rocket and fights like it knows it's better than you. And here's the crazy part, it's still being built. The F-15EX entered service in 2024. Modern avionics upgraded systems, and during testing, it nearly hit Mach 2.5 again. Some engineers even hinted it could push close to Mach 2.9 if you really wanted to stress it. Also, fun fact, this is the only fighter jet that has ever shot down a satellite. Yeah, space wasn't safe either. So let me ask you straight, if your life depended on winning a dogfight, are you picking the F-15 or are you gambling on something newer but less proven? And now we're getting close to the top. Real close, because what comes next is where speed stops being impressive and starts getting ridiculous. All right, now we're in the danger zone, not the movie The Real One. This is where engineers stopped asking, is this practical, and started asking, how fast is too fast? Spoiler alert, nobody agreed on the answer. Number 2, the MiG-31 Foxhound. Silver medal, but don't let that fool you. This thing is an absolute monster. On paper, it can push Mach 2.83. That's roughly 1,900 miles per hour. And unlike a lot of Cold War relics, this one didn't just rely on brute force, it brought brains to the party. The MiG-31 was built to replace the MiG-25 Foxbat, and the Soviets basically said, let's keep the speed and fix everything else. Better radar, better avionics, multi-target tracking. This jet can track 10 targets at once and engage 4 simultaneously. That's not a dogfight, that's crowd control. It can even cruise at supersonic speeds at low altitude, something earlier interceptors struggled with. So yeah, this wasn't just fast, it was versatile in a way. Cold War jets rarely were. But here's where the story takes a turn that sounds almost like a joke. Except it's not. They had to limit its speed. Not because of the engines. Not because of structural failure. The glass. The cockpit canopy literally couldn't handle the heat at full speed. Imagine building a Ferrari and then realizing the windshield melts if you go full throttle. So they capped it around Mach 1.5 in practical use. Still fast, but nowhere near its theoretical peak. Now let me throw this at you. If you're designing a jet and you know it can go faster than the pilot can safely survive or the materials can handle, do you still push for maximum speed or do you dial it back for reliability? That's a real commander-level decision right there. Oh, and just when you thought it couldn't get more dangerous, the MiG-31 can carry the Kinzhal hypersonic missile. That's Mach 10 territory. At that point, we're not talking about engagements. We're talking about you're already gone before you know what hit you. Now, number 1, the fastest fighter jet still on the books in 2025. The legend, the myth, the machine that caused straight-up panic when the West first saw it. The MiG-25 Foxbat, Mach 2.83, again around 1,900 miles per hour. Same headline number as the MiG-31, but here's the difference. The MiG-25 actually lived at the edge of insanity. This thing wasn't refined. It wasn't elegant. It was built for one purpose, go stupidly fast and scare everyone. When Western intelligence first detected it back in the Cold War, they thought the Soviets had basically unlocked alien technology. The panic was so real that it directly accelerated the development of the F-15 Eagle. Yeah, that monster from earlier, it exists because this thing showed up uninvited. The MiG-25 could hit altitudes around 80,000 feet while moving at near 2,000 miles per hour. At that height and speed, it was practically untouchable. Missiles struggled to reach it. Fighters couldn't intercept it. Radar barely had time to track it before it vanished. And, get this, it was built mostly out of stainless steel, not aluminum. Why? because at those speeds, the heat would literally start melting conventional materials. The engines basically modified cruise missile engines. This thing was closer to a weapon than a traditional aircraft. But here's the twist that makes this whole story even more insane. Technically, it's still active in 2025, but only 4 remain worldwide, 2 in Syria, 2 in Libya. And let's be honest, it's highly unlikely any of those are combat ready. So yeah, it holds the crown, but barely. Now here's where Mr. PiP is going to mess with your brain a little. Speed isn't king anymore. I know, feels wrong right after everything we just talked about. But modern combat doesn't care if you can go Mach 2.5 or Mach 3. Missiles today, Mach 4, Mach 5, even higher. If something is already faster than you and guided, you're not outrunning it. Most real combat engagements don't even exceed Mach 1.2. Let that sink in. All that engineering, all that raw speed, and in actual fights, it rarely gets used. So what matters now? Stealth, sensors, data, who sees who first, who shoots first, who never even shows up on radar. That's why jets like the F-35 or the Su-57 aren't chasing speed records. They're playing a different game entirely. And this is where things get interesting. Again, speed might be making a comeback. The rumored SR-72, sometimes called the son of Blackbird, is expected to hit Mach 6. Hypersonic weapons are already reshaping strategy. If aircraft can keep up with that pace again, we might be heading into a whole new era of air combat. And let's not forget the fastest aircraft ever built wasn't even a fighter. The NASA X-43A hit Mach 9.6. The North American X-15 Mach 6.7, and the legendary SR-71 Blackbird could cruise above Mach 3 like it was just another Tuesday. So yeah, humans don't have a speed problem. We have a what do we do with this power problem. Now I want to hear from you. Who wins the next air war, US, China, Russia, or someone unexpected? And if hypersonic jets become the norm, are we ready for that kind of battlefield? Drop your top 3 jets in the comments. I'm serious, I'll be reading them, and if your list is trash, I will absolutely roast it. At the end of the day, every one of these aircraft tells a story. Different eras, different priorities, different ways of solving the same impossible problem. How do you go faster, fly higher, and still come back alive? And the people behind them, engineers, pilots, crews, they pushed limits most of us wouldn't even understand. That's what makes these machines more than just metal and fuel. They're proof that when humans decide to break limits, we usually do. This is Mr. PiP. Stay sharp, keep your head on a swivel, and next time you see a contrail up in the sky, just remember you might be looking at something moving faster than you can even comprehend.